Kitchener-Waterloo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Our public libraries provide extraordinary value to their communities, whether it's employment skills upgrading or the integration of new Ontarians, whether it's providing free space for seniors groups or the early development of literacy skills. Our public libraries create community across the province. But in 1998, the Harris government cut funding by 40% to libraries. The government's public library operating grants maintained the Conservative cuts, paying for less than 2.5% of libraries' annual operating budget. So the Liberals maintained the Conservative cuts. The Ontario Library Association and the Federation of Ontario Public Libraries have lobbied the government for years, 20 years, for funding to be restored. Why doesn't this Premier recognize the importance of libraries as a vital public service by lifting the funding freeze?
Thank you.
Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sport.
Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sport.
Thank you, Speaker, and I'm delighted to rise as the new Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sport. And to address this issue, Speaker, shortly after being sworn in, one of the first groups with whom I met were libraries, and I have met with a number of local librarians as well who have expressed concerns to us about funding. I want to say that our government does value the contributions of public libraries in building strong, vibrant communities right across Ontario, and we recognize the wide range of people in our province who make use of over 1,110 library service points right across the province. Now, Speaker, through our culture strategy, we recognize that public libraries, they're very essential spaces for access to culture, services, technology, to our community life. And the strategy that we have commits to reviewing and updating provincial funding programs in order to build the capacity of public libraries. We're working with them. We know that they want increased funding, and we are addressing that. Thank you.
Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, funding libraries is the best way to acknowledge how important libraries are in the province of Ontario. Now, both the City of Kitchener and the City of Waterloo have passed council resolutions asking the provincial government to restore adequate, appropriate funding for local libraries that would increase each year in line with the Consumer Price Index. This is a reasonable request after 20 years. Mary Chevreau, the Kitchener Public Library's chief executive, called libraries the cheapest deal in town. Every $1 invested in libraries equals $6 in terms of economic benefit for the community. Without a funding increase, though, Chevreau says we're going to have to cut somewhere, and the most obvious place would be the actual content that we carry in libraries. Speaker, it's time for the Premier to step up and lift the library funding freeze so that everyone in our community can learn, can connect, and innovate, and yes, belong. Will the Premier commit to lifting this 20-year public freeze on library funding in the province of Ontario?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Speaker, I wholeheartedly agree that funding is important for the sector. By way of background, Speaker, the funding was frozen in the late 1990s by the Conservative Party, and quite disconcerting to the library sector at the time. But I will.
The member from Kitchener-Conestoga is warned. Carry on.
So to continue, Speaker, the funding was frozen back in the late 1990s. The government values a contribution of public libraries. They do build strong communities. They build out literacy. Our libraries support lifelong learning. They provide resources to students and newcomers, and they help small businesses and entrepreneurs. And that's why funding for the Internet Connectivity Program was increased just last year. This increase is in recognition of the role that libraries play in providing digital services and building out our community. And so we are working with the sector. We are aware that they are looking for increased funding, and I am looking forward to having an answer for them soon. Thank you.